Damn, it feels good to be back. Oh, hello, internet fans. Welcome to 3B Video. I'm your host, Rotten Roger DeMarco, and today we're going to be talking about my top 5 horror films from 1990. That's right, the 80s are in the rearview mirror. It's time to bust out your Pogs, your skateboards, and your VCR so you can record Simpsons episodes or something.
I don't know.
Either way, we're going to do my top 5 horror films from 1990. And I gotta offer a little disclaimer. The way that I do these lists is not by which films performed the best in the box office in 1990. The way that I do these lists is by the way that these films make me feel. The most fun films that I can pick from that year, movies I have a personal connection with, and yada yada. So my list and your list gonna be way different, and that's totally cool. So let me know your list in the comments below.
See that? I went full-blown YouTuber there for a second. What am I doing?
So coming in at number 5 for me is Stephen Hopkins' Predator 2.
Want some candy? Want some candy?
I don't know who he is, but I know where he is. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This movie is super fun. A total worthy sequel to the original film, minus Arnold Schwarzenegger. But hey, you get Danny Glover, so that's just as good, right? So if you haven't given this film a chance, here's your plot rundown. The Predator comes to Los Angeles in 1997 during a massive heat wave and a drug crime wave rigmarole. And he is picking the most dangerous game to hunt, which includes coked up Gary Busey and Bill Paxton. I don't know what else to tell you about this movie. Great creature effects, super fun dialogue, just an awesome, high-octane action horror film. If that doesn't sell you, I don't know what else will. But I love Predator 2, so it had to make the list. But moving on to my number 4 horror film from 1990 is Ralph Singleton's Graveyard Shift. Now, I have a super personal connection with this film. Every time I would go to the video store or even the grocery store, in their VHS section, they would have a copy of this movie.
And the cover used to freak me out.
And I would never work up the courage. I'd pick it up, I'd look at it, I'd put it back, and I'd get something else, a little safer. A Friday the 13th movie or something like that. Until one day, I pulled the trigger, I took this movie home, and I gave it a watch. First of all, it's not what I expected at all. It's a movie about a giant killer rat and his minion rats that are kind of taking over this cotton mill. So you get shell-shocked Brad Dourif running around, killing all these rats. You get the dad from Monster Squad running this factory and being a total prick. And you get people shooting slingshots at rats. I don't know. This is a super fun, weird horror movie that I finally worked up the courage to watch, and now I absolutely love it.
It makes me feel sweaty. It makes me feel gross.
Super unique giant rat creature monster. I don't even know what you call it, but it's killer.
Haha, no pun intended.
But this movie had to make my list. So if you haven't seen it, find a way to do that and do that immediately. But moving on to my number 3 horror film from 1990 is Clive Barker's Nightbreed.
Oz is over the rainbow, and Midian is where the monsters live.
This is one of those really weird movies where you have all of these monsters living underground in a cemetery called Midian. It's where all the dregs of monster society go. You've got Doug Bradley kind of keeping them all in check and taking care of them. He's like Jesus for monsters. And then you've got David Cronenberg, Dr. Decker, running around in this burlap sack mask with buttons for eyes, killing everybody. Dr. Decker is terrifying. If nothing else, Dr. Decker steals the show in this movie. Sure, there's a lot of great monster effects in this movie. Some are pretty hokey, but some are really memorable. But Dr. Decker is the thing about this movie that used to scare me to the bone when I was a kid. And every time I watch this movie, I find something else I like a little bit more about it. Especially since Scream Factory put out that 2.5 hour cut, which I hear is like a 3 or a 3.5 hour cut, the Cabal cut. I haven't seen it. I want to see it. If you've seen it, let me know about it. If you have an extra copy that you don't know what to do with, send it to old Uncle Roger here, P.O. Box down in the bottom. What's not to love about this movie? You've got Clive Barker saying some really profound things with this movie. There's a lot of social commentary in this movie. I won't spoil it for you. If you haven't seen it, watch this movie and let me know what you take away from this movie, because it's a good one. So it had to make my list. Moving on to my number 2 horror film from 1990 is Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead. Now, I'm probably going to get some backlash for this, and that's okay. That's okay. But I happen to really, really like this remake of Night of the Living Dead. I think it's better than the original. It's been updated. Tom Savini behind the camera. You've got a killer cast with Tom Tolles, Tony Todd, Patricia Tallman, Billy Butler. The list is fantastic. And Bill Moseley. This movie is everything that I want zombie movies to be. This is my second favorite zombie movie ever made, right behind the original Dawn of the Dead. Changes the story just enough to make you think you know what's gonna happen, and then being like, aha, fooled you, Jurassic Park reference, deep cut. This is just one of the best zombie movies ever made, hands down, period. Not up for discussion.
We can fight about it.
So it had to make my list. This is a movie that we watch constantly in my house. My son loves this movie, I love this movie, and I can still remember the first time that I saw this movie. I set my VCR to record this on Stars at like 3:30 in the morning. Got up for school, saw that the tape had recorded, went to school, couldn't wait to get home, ran home, watched the movie, rewound the movie, called my best friend in the whole world, told him to come over because I had seen the best zombie movie ever. He came over, we watched it, we rewound it. We were so stoked on this movie. And it sort of snowballed into my love for the zombie genre. So this movie holds a special spot in my heart, a very near and dear spot. And that's why it made my number 2. But moving on to my number 1 horror film from 1990 is Jeff Burr's Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Now I know that there are legions of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans who put the first film up on a pedestal, as we all should. It is a masterclass in no-budget filmmaking. And then there are Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans who put Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 up on a pedestal for its over-the-top, super quirky, goofy-ass attitude. But then there's me and Evil, or Evil and I and Evil. Evil and me and you guys, who happen to think that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is a goddamn masterpiece. I mean, seriously, Evil and I are massive wrestling fans and slapstick horror fans, and this movie kind of marries everything that we love. It feels very much like a wrestling event. R.A. Mihailoff as Leatherface, he's massive, he's slimy, he's scary, he's muscular, and he's got this stone cold Steve Austin knee brace on, just kind of squeaking around, messing everybody up. You've got Billy Butler, you've got Viggo Mortensen, you've got Kate Hodge, you've got Tom Everett, who steals the show. This movie takes everything that the first movie did right, borrows a little spoonful of that comedy from the second movie, and puts them together. For some reason, a lot of people hate Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, but me personally, I have a blast with this movie. I think that it's criminally underrated. It's super fun, and sometimes I just want to watch Leatherface stomp around with a custom-made chainsaw to a heavy metal soundtrack. And I don't see what's wrong with that. I love the vibe that this movie gives off, and that's why it had to make my number 1 horror film from 1990. Because if any of the movies on this list scream out loud 1990, it would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface. The fashion, the comedy, the way that it's filmed, the heavy metal, everything about it screams 1990 to me. And I love it with a violent passion. And anytime someone says they don't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, I get sad for them. But that's my list. Let me know your list in the comments below. I suppose I should probably get going because, after all, there's a lot of movies out there. Somebody's got to watch them. So why not me? Right? Chrome's every damn thing.